Krystal, what are you taking a look at?
Well, guys, there's a pretty wild moment on CNBC the other day as a Wharton professor of finance, Jeremy Siegel, absolutely lost it over Fed Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's latest press conference and the total unwillingness of the business press to question his actions at all. Take a listen.
I think we're giving Powell, honestly, we're giving him too much of a, oh, good, he's standing against inflation. We're giving him too much praise. I mean, listen, the Fed has just, executed the last 2 years one of the biggest policy mistakes in the 110-year history of the Fed by staying so easy when everything was booming and pointing to, my God, inflation is going to be a terrible problem. And now, oh, yeah, we did goof badly there, which he never really admitted. I mean, he still blames some things on Ukraine and, Putin and the supply side, even though oil is way below that level, way beyond that. And now we're saying, oh, my God, he's the God that's going to stop inflation and he's going to crush the wages, which have fallen behind inflation by 3, 4, 5%. You can't have cost push inflation when you're lagging inflation. You can't blame wages for inflation when they're 2, 3, 4, 5% behind inflation. I mean,
he said the other
why
day
is he putting the burden on these working people, on the employed people? That's, I mean,
Professor,
what is it? And every other commodity price is going down.
The Fed chair gave you no indication the other day that they're stopping anytime soon.
That's right, and that's why the stock market has cracked this week. He gave no indication that, I mean, if he would have just said, I see some favorable sign, like housing prices are not rising and actually they're falling, or some little saying that our policies are working. I mean, he admitted, there's long lags. Well, if he keeps as tight as he is, look at every market indicator, the Dow, the commodities, real rates, the money supply, everything is showing one of the tightest Feds or intentions of Feds that we've ever had.
So what?
He says there,
Professor,
and he says it works with the lag. Well, if he stays this way through 2023, you can, make sure that there's a major recession on the other side.
So I want to break this clip down for you, but the TLDR is this. Siegel is absolutely convinced that without dramatically changing course, the Fed will trigger a severe recession and absolutely destroy working class people. He believes they are making the mistake of a century and is desperately attempting to sound the alarm. So let's start with the first part of what the professor says when he complains that everyone is treating Jerome Powell like he's some kind of god, not even questioning whether he's charting the right course. In another part of his appearance, Siegel also blows his top for the fact that not a single reporter bothered to ask him a tough question. Certainly no one asked about whether regular people might be hurt by Powell's attempts to crush their wages and spike unemployment. This in spite of the fact that, according to Siegel, the Fed just executed one of the worst mistakes in the 110-year history of the Fed. This deferential posture from supposed journalists comes from two places, basically. First, there's an ugly bipartisan consensus now which has taken hold of Washington that it's those pesky workers and their wages that are primarily to blame for inflation, and that the only answer is for Powell to go full Volcker and tank the economy. Now, this benefits corporate America, which is irritated by the fact that right now, with the labor market tight, workers have started to organize, to strike, and in general to demand better conditions. Ken Klippenstein reports that some executives are outright admitting that they hope Fed policy will discipline workers into accepting the shitty deals that they've had to put up with for decades. One real estate CEO openly admitted that, quote, a recession could be good for the commercial real estate business if it comes with a level of unemployment that puts employers back in the driver's seat and allows them to get all their employees back into the office. Second, there's an even uglier trend to just accept the pronouncements of the Fed as if they are being handed down from on high. In this view, the Fed policymakers are just quants analyzing data and calling balls and strikes. This is absurd. Monetary policy is just as subject to politics, ideological capture, and just human beings making big mistakes as any other body. They should be questioned. They should be questioned vigorously, and the public should feel empowered to have an opinion on Fed policy, since few things more directly impact their lives. But the language around monetary policy has been made intentionally opaque and confusing to keep that rogue element, the people, from feeling like they understand enough in order to have a say. Which brings me to another piece of the professor's commentary here, where he absolutely trashes the idea that wages are to blame for inflation. Let's listen to that part.
We're saying, oh, my God, he's the God that's going to stop inflation, and he's going to crush the wages, which have fallen behind inflation by 3, 4, 5%. You can't have cost push inflation when you're lagging inflation. You can't blame wages for inflation when they're 2, 3, 4, 5% behind inflation. I mean,
he said the other
why
day
is he
that they're
putting
gonna,
the burden on these working people, on the employed people? That's, I mean,
Professor,
what is, and every other
chair,
commodity price is going down.
Here, he explodes a gigantic Washington myth that the real problem with inflation is that costs are up. Translation, workers are earning too much. This is nonsense. Yes, wages have gone up, not nearly enough to keep up with the cost of inflation. It's not the workers who need to be disciplined, it's the corporations, which have used inflation as an excuse to jack up their prices and gain massive profit margins. When you account for inflation, real wages have declined. They have gone down every single month since April of 2021. Let me show you what wages look like this year. That top blue line you see there, that's prices. They have gone up and up. Wages before inflation, what economists would call nominal wages, they go up as well, but not nearly as fast as prices. That leaves real wages, that would be the dark red line that you see there, actually going down. Once you consider rising prices, average workers have gotten a pay cut every single month for more than a year. So as the professor asked, how does it make any sense to blame wages for inflation when wages have done nothing ultimately but decline? Another key part of Siegels' argument here is that the Fed is admitting that what they are doing will take a while to fully hit, but they are still fully moving full steam ahead anyway, knowing that they could easily overshoot and trigger an absolute catastrophe. Here is that portion.
He admitted, there's long lags. Well, if he keeps as tight as he is, look at every market indicator, the Dow, the commodities, real rates, the money supply, everything is showing one of the tightest Feds or intentions of Feds that we've ever had.
So what?
He says
so
there,
Professor,
and he says it works with the lag. Well, if he stays this way through 2023, you can, make sure that there's a major recession on the other side.
A major recession on the other side. Here's a few of the indicators that Siegel mentions that he implores Powell to take a look at. He points to the Dow, which fell massively on Friday, continued its slide on Monday as well. It's not just the U.S. markets, though. Global markets also plunged as Powell showed no sign whatsoever of easing up on the Fed's aggressive moves. Siegel mentions commodities, and here we can take a look at the oil markets, where prices have continued to fall down to a 9-month low. Now, of course, it's a very good thing if it translates to what you pay at the pump, but as we know, oil prices and gas prices at the pump don't move in anything close to lockstep. Siegel's point is that if your goal is a soft landing to curb inflation without triggering a recession, the warning lights are flashing red that you are already overshooting the mark. And yet the Fed is just continuing aggressively in the same direction. In another portion of the interview, he talks about the housing market downturn, the fact that you have now millions of new workers and jobs with GDP actually going down. All signs that the hawkish Fed policy is really starting to bite, and that it may already be too late to avoid the major recession that the professor is urgently warning about. This appearance was so remarkable to me because the words of warning being sounded here are so incredibly rare to be heard anywhere, or at least those voices of dissent so rarely really get a hearing. We would all do well to listen. Pretty remarkable moment there on CNBC. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.